Kia ora and welcome. We will be starting the webinar shortly, but as a way of introduction, feel free to use the chat function to introduce yourself. Tell us who you are, what your role is, and where you work.
Tēnā koutou koutou. Ngā mihi nui to you all for joining us today for our celebration of 1 year on from IWG. Before we start, I'd like to first open us up with a karakia. Whakarongo akio, ki te tangi a te manu, e ririrunga rawa e, tui, 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 tuia. Tuia I runga, tuia I raro, tuia I roto, tuia I waho, tui, tui, tuia. Kia rongo te ao, kia ronga te po, tui, tui, tuia. Kia ora tātou, morena from where you're tuning in from. Thank you for joining us today. This week, as a community, we celebrate a year on since IWG, since WISPA hosted the 8th World Conference here in Tamaki Makaurau and online. What a year it's been. I'm inspired to still see meaningful connections that formed through IWG, collaborating, championing one another toward our efforts for positive systems change. There's a real strong groundswell for improving opportunities and outcomes for women and girls in our industry, which is plenty of motivation to keep championing and advocating for bigger and better. Today promises to provide some great insights and discussions, and we look forward to your active participation in this session. So without further ado, it is my absolute pleasure to introduce our expert facilitator for the session this morning. A strong advocate for women and girls, particularly in sport and active recreation, a significant member of our IWG programming design team, Shift Foundation and Sport New Zealand board member, current Wahine Toa program director, and of course, one of our greatest supporters here at WISPA. Please allow me to welcome to the virtual stage, Robin Coburn.
Kia ora and thank you very much, Nikki. It's absolutely hard to believe that it's been a year since the 8th IWG conference. I must admit it took me quite some time to recover, but what a year it's been, and the FIFA World Cup has been another pinnacle event that has really furthered the profile of women's sport. There's been a huge amount of progress both globally and nationally towards equitable outcomes for girls and women, and there's a lot for us to be proud of. And as you said, Nikki, we're marking the 1 year anniversary by bringing together change makers from across the recreation and sports sector to hear about progress in regard to the calls of action. We're going to hear from you, Nikki, about the work that WISPA's been doing and some plans for the year ahead. And beaming in from Lausanne, we're also incredibly thrilled to host Lisa O'Keefe, who is the Secretary General of the IWG Women in Sport. She'll be sharing some of the work that they've been doing and their upcoming plans. We hope you've had a chance to hear from our panelists who did some pre-recorded videos and what they've been up to, and the work that they've been doing aligned with the calls to action. And we have the opportunity to hear from 3 of those people today. Rebecca Rolls, Integrity Transition Director for New Zealand Government Integrity Commission, Helene Wilson, High Performance Sport New Zealand, and Kylie Heihei from YMCA North Shore. You will also have a chance to respond to some polls, contribute using the chat function, and give us some feedback. So this is not just a sit back and relax. We're really keen to have your involvement on the way through. You will see that there is a poll that has popped up on your screen. Have a look at that and let us know. Have you had a chance to look at the webinars that, at the videos that we prepared in advance? Totally fine if you haven't, just really great to know if you have had that opportunity. So in summary, process from here, you get an opportunity to listen, chat and ask questions. We've got some presentations, some opportunities for discussion, and we're really keen to hear also about your own contributions. But let's get into the content of this morning and hear from Nikki about what WISPA's been up to post IWG.
Thank you, Robin. An exciting, action-packed hour we've got with some epic content. As you all know, it's been a bumper year for WISPA since we hosted IWG, and what a resounding success that was. Obviously, we are very grateful to everyone that played a massive role in contributing to the successful delivery of that event. As I said in my introduction, I'm continued to be inspired by the positive feedback and epic response from our community near and afar, those that were a part of IWG. Since IWG, it goes without saying that there's been a lot of transition, moving away from an international focus back into our domestic ambitions here without forgetting our connections into IWG. And we're really grateful to have Lisa here today. It reaffirms our relationships back into IWG and our ongoing desire to continue to bring that advice, advocacy and information back into New Zealand and Oceania. So for WISPA here, in the last year, we have had a real clear focus on some of our leadership development. And as you would have all seen, we've in the past delivered Whanaki o Te Kōpara, which is our youth-based leadership program. In 2023, we've again taken another 20 alumni through the program successfully. So we're now sitting at 60 in total. Of this year's participants, we obviously have Kylie joining us this morning, and we're really delighted to be able to hear a bit from her about her experiences since. In addition to this, we had a pilot program we've delivered in partnership with Pacific Assist Sisters in Sport. This is a growing relationship of ours here in Aotearoa, and one that's going to be really important in the future as we continue to drive forward positive outcomes for all women and girls in Aotearoa. The inaugural alumni, 10 of them that come from Tonga, Fiji, Samoa and the Cook Islands, all came to New Zealand in August and September and spent 3 weeks here on a residential program and then hosted in organisation. Right now, they're back in their own countries, beginning their projects of change for women and girls locally, and shortly WISPA will be visiting those participants in their home nations to see how they're going and check in on the progress and support that they are getting back home in order to continue to advance the opportunities for women and girls locally. We had some really amazing women participate in that program. We had a really great community response here in Tamaki from our host organisations and supporting organisations around us. So it's been a really exceptional opportunity for us, and one that we're hopeful and optimistic we'll be able to continue. In addition, our Insight Hub has evolved. We launched it last year, obviously as part of our legacy program from IWG. We've continued to curate content and receive content from our community across toolkits, videos, case studies, research, insights. It's an area that we're really passionate about, and we want to continue to be able to provide meaningful, free-to-access resources for our community that are dedicated to women and girls. Our insights are both domestic and international, and I hope that we can take the best of the world to us as well as us to the world. We welcome continued contributions there. In addition, our Hini Manawaro nationwide network continues to evolve. We are growing our membership there, and we're creating a lot of enthusiasm for the collective and wanting to work as a nationwide entity in order to advance positive change. We've recently regathered our network, and we are in discussion about activation plans in future, which I'll draw on a little bit later. And then finally, as we round out the year on, we are in the midst of a pilot, calling it Systems Change Pilot. It is a gender equity assessment tool, which we are piloting with some sports codes at the moment in a view to see what could service or work here in New Zealand in order to drive real deep system level change at a strategic sense. So in the numbers, there it is. It's been a busy year, as I said, not without a lot of continued momentum of IWG, significant change and transition as an organisation, but it's been an exciting year, one that I've been really pleased and humbled to be a part of and leading on behalf of WISPA, but it doesn't go without saying that we couldn't do what we do without the support of you all and obviously all of our stakeholders, partners and supporters. So that's enough from me. I'm going to pass back to Robin. Thank you for listening in, and I'll be back online in a little bit.
Thank you very much, Nikki. As you said, a lot of momentum already and some great plans that we look forward to hearing about for the year ahead. So we've been hearing briefly about what's been happening locally. Let's now lift our gaze and think globally. Many of you will have had an opportunity to meet or hear from Lisa when she was here for the IWG. And for those of you who didn't have that chance, she's a former international rugby player with over 15 years senior leadership experience and was the catalyst for the This Girl Can campaign, which I have been an absolute fangirl of since its inception. She's here in her role as Secretary General of the IWG and responsible for the next quadrennium of change in action. Lisa, tell us a little bit about your past career and what led you to take on the role at IWG.
Thanks, Robin. Well, in my past career, as you rightly say, I played international rugby for 13 years. And during my time at Sport England, I was exec director of Insight, where I spent a lot of time trying to better understand what drives people's attitudes and behaviours, and ultimately the choices they make when it comes to sport and physical activity. So it was an absolute no-brainer for me when there was the opportunity to work with and through IWG to share that knowledge and insights much more widely and work with a much broader range of partners. So it's a real privilege to be in this role.
And tell us a little bit about what you are focusing on at the IWG going forward.
Sure. So how to compress a year into a few minutes. I think the first thing I would want to say is that the IWG strategic plan, which we've put in place through to 2026 and which we'll share with all of you, it really was developed out of the work of Women in Sport Aotearoa, and also through the conversations that we were able to listen to and the work, the networks, building that understanding of what has already gone before. And we wanted to try and keep that continuity from the work in New Zealand, but also reflect much of what we were hearing in Auckland. We've tried to really kind of reflect that, and indeed the calls to action, we've tried to reflect those as well. And for us, that meant, first of all, the vision, really making sure that we are talking about sports contribution to a world where all women and girls can thrive, and really starting to encourage people to understand the contexts of different groups of women and what's impacting their lives. And in the mission, which very much for us is about bringing stakeholders together, thinking about the changes that need to be made to the structures and values of sport. And if you do ever hear me speaking on platforms or speaking at events, you'll hear me talking about needing to move the thinking on from how do we fix the women to how do we fix the system, because that's really where the change needs to be taking place. In terms of the plan, we've set out 3 strategic priorities, which you can see there: connections, insight, and advocacy. Let me take each one of those in turn, just give you a little bit of a flavour of what that means for us. First one, connections. really wanting to build on the work of previous secretariats, and certainly on the work of the team in New Zealand. And this really takes 2 or 3 forms. First of all, working with a small number of key strategic partnerships. And I know from speaking to Nikki at the time, many of those partnerships with the likes of the IOC, with the Global Observatory, with UNESCO, they were really well established over the last 4 years. And of course, many of those organisations had colleagues in Auckland at the event. So for us, there's been an opportunity to take that work forward. Work such as UNESCO's Fit for Life. If you've not looked at that, do have a look at that. Thinking about what role sport and physical activity can play post-pandemic, and how we can start to tackle the gender inequalities. We're also doing a piece of work to map, really, I think that's probably the best way to describe it, the networks across the continents and across sports. I'm really keen to identify what I'm calling the fire starters, who are those individuals who really understand and are really, really engaged with wanting to tackle gender inequalities, and are very vested in networks and ensuring those networks are in place in order to share knowledge. If that's you, I'd really like to know who you are. And Nikki and I are talking about this because, without doubt, WISPA are a key partner for us. But I'm trying to find those few individuals who will be absolutely key to driving that forward in Oceania. And I'm also looking to be able to clearly and simply share with the network around the globe what events are happening, whether they be in-person events or hybrid events, where there are reports being published, where there is research being published, where people have reflections from events they've attended and what they're learning. Ultimately, the secret here of this connections pillar is how do we make sure we're not always reinventing the wheel, that where there's some great nuggets of knowledge anywhere around the globe, we are absolutely connecting those bits of knowledge. So you should really easily be able to find those and access those through IWG. The second one is Insight, and Nikki's already spoken about the Insight Hub that WISPA have got, and of course we're building on the great work of the last secretariat. For us at the moment, we've got a couple of pieces of research actually, which are one is completed, one is ongoing. If you have a look at the IWG website, there's a really interesting piece of research which was conducted on behalf of UK Sport, looking at international leadership and women, what the challenges for women getting into positions of leadership within sports structures internationally, and some really interesting insights and what we all collectively might do to change the system in order to ensure more diverse leadership. And also, we're just about to embark on a piece of work. Professor Pike from Hertfordshire University is working with the University in Lausanne to look at how policy is used to tackle gender inequalities. So we'll be publishing that when it's available. The final strand there is advocacy. And we're tackling this in a couple of ways, but for me, this is really about the power of the network. I can talk till the cows come home about the importance of gender equality in sport, but I think what's really powerful is where we hear messages of not only why it's important, but what impact tackling inequalities is having on the success of organisations who go down that journey. We're doing that with our signatories to the Brighton Declaration. So those past signatories, we're telling the story of impact. We're signing up lots of new signatories to the Brighton Declaration, but all of this is really about signing up organisations, telling their story of what the inequalities are, how they're seeking to tackle them, what they're learning, maybe perhaps changing course, sharing that learning back through the network, and celebrating where success has been achieved. So again, if that's something that you're thinking, well, you know, we're doing some really good work in this area, we'd really like to push and promote it. First of all, please have a look at the Brighton Declaration and consider signing up to it, but get in touch with us, right? Because I want to celebrate those who are doing the good work. And then just finally, and I'll just pick out one area of the advocacy piece down at the bottom there. You'll see there's 3 themes: investment, visibility and portrayal, and leadership. And that's come out of conversations with people to say, if we were to focus on 1, 2, 3 topics where it is absolutely clear that if we worked together, we'd get somewhere quicker, or we'd get there faster, or we'd get to a destination we could never achieve on our own, what would they be? And those were the 3 that people told me. And let me just take investment. So I was told that we're in a marketplace now where women's sport, certainly at an elite level, and some of the commercial sports are moving apace. We saw that with the Women's Football World Cup, of course, in New Zealand and Australia. And rights holders are finding it difficult to know how to value the rights. It's hard to know how to value those rights, how to demonstrate the return on investment, because the metrics are very different from the more traditional male market, where the models of valuations are really clear and well understood. And there's also this emerging market. We've got to help it emerge, right? So we're working with the Department for Business and Trade and Deloitte with 20 leading rights holders of women's properties in the UK. So that's including Manchester City, Royal and Ancient, Open Championships, the Scottish FA, Women's Premiership Rugby. And we're working with them to help them really understand the value of those rights, help them take them to market, and importantly, be able to strike those deals to grow that market for women's sport. Because Deloitte will always tell us there's a virtuous circle here, that the money coming in and being invested ultimately, will enhance the quality on the pitch, will enhance the attraction, the fan base, growing the fandom. It will absolutely result in increased salaries for players, more opportunities for jobs within the sector, and this whole virtual circle continues. So big one for us. Our intention, because we're IWG, is once we've got this up and running in the UK, is to share what we're doing, share the learning, because I believe very firmly that we can lift and shift this to other countries. It's a really simple idea, but it's one I think might be of interest to you in New Zealand. Nikki, I'm going to stop there, but hopefully that gives a good sort of sense of what we're doing. And I should say, Robin, just seeing you there, I thought you would want to know, and this is a real example actually of the legacy of moving the IWG around the continents. Today I was in Lausanne speaking to all the international federations of sport at the Sport Accord Forum, and during my presentation, not for the first time, I took some of the really I have to say toe-curling messages that come out of the research which you carried out for the IWG Progress Report, and it is quite sobering. But what we know is that good data, good insights, where we're able to articulate exactly what the issue is and where we need to focus our attention, do get cut through. And they definitely did today with the International Federation. So a big thank you to me, Robin, for the work that you and your colleagues did in producing that report.
Thank you very much. And thanks for taking the time out of your busy schedule, Lisa, to join us today. I loved your reference to the fire starters, and I know we've got fire starters on the line, and I've put in the chat an invitation for people to identify who those fire starters are, and please feel free to self-identify as a fire starter or to nominate others. And thank you, Lisa, for the invitations that you extended. We will share your contacts and obviously the information around the IWG to the people who are here today, so that people can respond to your invitation. So thank you very much. And Lisa has a really important dinner that she's ducked out for to share her time this evening. So we'll say goodbye to you now and go well. And no doubt we will see you again, either virtually or we hope in person over the next few years. So thank you from us. Moving forward, what we're going to be doing now is to reflect on the conference call to action that emerged as a result of the IWG conference late last year. And we've had an opportunity, obviously, to ask our panelists to spend some time reflecting on those calls of action and have recorded some videos around this. And I'd like to acknowledge that there was, in parallel to the IWG calls to action, an Indigenous response to that call to action. And Mary Rangihuna, who may be known to you, has also prepared a video and has talked into that space. So we will be sharing her video and her thoughts about that after this workshop. There are 10 high-level topics around the calls to action, and we've invited our panelists to talk to some of these. I'd just like to introduce our panel now. So perhaps you could all turn your cameras on so that we're all on screen together. Moving from my left, Rebecca Rolls is the Integrity Transition Program Director for Integrity Sport and Recreation Commission, a former international athlete representing New Zealand in both cricket and football. How many women do we know who have at least a dual cap and sometimes more? Rebecca has a long public service career spanning 20 years, police, serious fraud office and corrections. You can sort of see where her focus might be. But in 2021, she joined Sport New Zealand as the Diversity and Inclusion Manager, and now leads the program team establishing the Integrity Sport and Recreation Commission. Rebecca, you've been working really hard on creating this new system. What are the timeframes going forward for the Commission?
Yeah, thanks, Robin. And I always hear all of that and feel very old. So it's really refreshing to now see in the chat there's a lot of some new talent coming through. So thanks for that. Yeah, look, Commission opens on 1 July next year, which is rushing at us at a frustrating but very exciting pace. So yeah, really just waiting for the government to form and get us a minister so we can sort of start kicking on and put a board in place and bring some of that stuff into action. So exciting.
Very good, thank you. And alongside her, Kylie Heihei, who's currently the Sports League Coordinator at Y North Shore, 26 years old and already demonstrating leadership and creating some amazing new initiatives. Kylie's driven by a passion from empowering youth, particularly girls and women, and providing them with a platform for their voices to be heard, which, as you will recall, is a really key aspect of our calls to action, and has been fostering growth of girls and women through Oscar and recreation programs. Kylie was chosen to participate in the WISPA and Shift Foundation Whanike o Te Kōpara program, which has played a pivotal role. Tell us a little bit more about your involvement in that program, Kylie, and its impact on you.
Yeah, well, as the girls know in the program, I was very, very shy. I was hard to get to know, which is really hard, especially in a program where you don't know anybody. But it was honestly like changed my life. It helped me a lot in my leadership position. And yeah, I just feel like it's life-changing, and getting to be alongside people who bring different skills is really key to everything.
Nice, very good. And I think that the panel that we've got today is a really great example of that. And Helene Wilson, our third panelist, is a nice addition to this. Currently the Women in High Performance Sport lead at High Performance Sport New Zealand. You may know Helene through her stellar coaching career in netball across all various levels. She's been a graduate of the Coach Accelerator program and coached Fast Five Ferns to a World Series title in 2018, led Northern Mystics to their inaugural ANZ Premiership title, and now is focusing on enhancing opportunities for women by addressing gaps in leadership, coaching, and high performance sport. Helene, what encouraged you to shift from coaching to being the high performance sport lead?
I think, thank you for the introduction, Robin. I think I'm a sucker for a challenge, and when there's a puzzle to solve, I do enjoy solving that puzzle. And I think the learnings from being a coach and working with people to change environments and culture and performance is something I'm passionate about. So I thought, why not try put my tools to trade across New Zealand for all women in that space?
Nice, very nice introduction to the topic that we're going to cover now. So one of the key issues that emerged as part of the call to action focuses on leadership and putting women and all of their diversity at the heart of decision making in every facet of sport and active recreation. And a second issue is around safeguarding, and issue number 5 is discrimination and inclusion. Rebecca and Helene have both demonstrated leadership in that systems change area, creating spaces where the rights and voices of girls and women are recognised and heard. Tell us firstly, what changes are you making to ensure women and girls are included in the sport and recreation system? Perhaps, Rebecca, you could start.
Thanks, Robin. So through the establishment of the commission, there's a few things, and unfortunately we have to recognise that more often than not, women and girls are the harmed people in integrity issues. So what the policy intent behind some of the what the commissions will be charged with and have the responsibility for in the future wants to create an environment where women and girls, or everybody actually, but in this case women and girls, feel included, they have options, and they're safe. So those are some of the 3 kind of things we put behind it. So the legislation itself actually states that the commission must have effective ways of seeking views across a number of specific areas, and women and girls are one of them, and equally from an age appropriate perspective, understanding that our younger women also have their own specific vulnerabilities. So one of those I guess what examples that maybe Lisa touched on earlier around using policy to create that change, I think it's deliberately baked in so that the commission must seek those views proactively and deliberately when making decisions and putting processes together.
Nice. Helene, let's hear from you. What changes are you making?
Yeah, I think we really committed to a people first approach or philosophy so that we could put the needs of women in the coaching and performance space first. So I think the fact that High Performance Sport New Zealand now have 3 dedicated full-time staff in this space, Sue Robson looks into how we can celebrate the difference of women in the training and keep women healthy as athletes. We have Jodie Cameron working targeted coach development approach, so women can be developed based on their needs to coach with their creative difference. And then we've also got Mia, who works in the leadership and coaching space and also supporting NSOs. So how do we look at diversity, equity, inclusion from a high performance perspective?
Thanks a lot. One of the things that we're aware of is that, here we've got 2 women leading the change. Tell us about how you're using male allies and champions to enable this to happen.
Well, from our perspective, I guess the establishment team set up nearly a year ago now, and a big driver of that was the minister at the time, Grant Robertson, who I think we all know had a massive impact on a lot of the Women's World Cups and facilities and opportunity, and certainly the Women and Girls strategy at Sport New Zealand. So, I mean, he's an obvious example. And I've got to say, I think as we progress through, our focus is on collecting and creating those male allies, because I think in all of our experience, we know when we're speaking to organisations, most of the leaders are still male. Governance, management, that's still happening as we go. And the other person I think is worth touching on as an example is Don McKinnon, who's the chair that I report to and has written and authored a lot of those reports. So through his experiences, he understands how important it is to seek the views of women and girls as we go through. So I'm going to call it out as still a bit of a work in progress. I think that hugely important. And hopefully when we're celebrating 2 years on, there'll be, maybe a bit more of a balance on this call in terms of men and women.
Yeah, and I think the work that we've been doing, we definitely have tried to create space for people to have conversations in the DEI space. And I think in high performance, there's lots of men who really support women working, leading, coaching in high performance, but maybe how do we apply that lens to a space where you're trying to gain a competitive advantage and compete. So I think the approach we've taken is not just developing and supporting women within the programs that we do, but the spaces for the NSOs and the leadership, HP leadership teams. How do we collectively support all people to understand and know what the creative difference, diversity of people can bring to thinking, and how we can gain a competitive advantage in sports? So through the Women in Sport project at HPSNZ and the work that we do, NSOs can now come to us with questions and say, hey, we've been thinking about this. How can we work through this? And we can provide them support to do that.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And we'll hear from both of you again shortly. Mirren's going to add something in the chat function, which I'd like all of you to respond to. What have you done to develop environments and systems that create gender equity in sport and recreation? And this could be at any level in the system. So it would be great to have you share your examples now. I'm going to move on. So we're going to hear now from Kylie and Rebecca, and we'll have Helene join us again shortly. There are a couple of issues that are around leadership, and those are around the opportunity for us to think in different ways around how we just define leadership and how it's seen and valued, and the fact that we're still dealing with systems and contexts where women are discriminated against or are excluded. So what I'm really keen to explore here is how we are addressing those issues and ensuring that we've got a youth voice involved in these conversations. And obviously Kylie, a kohine and one of this generation, and Rebecca, who's saying she's possibly one of that generation, are keen to hear your perspective. So let's hear from you first of all, Kylie. What does leadership look like from your perspective?
Leadership to me, I feel, isn't about titles. So it's a shared responsibility. So creating an environment for everyone, regardless of the age and experience. So everyone is actually welcome, encouraged to contribute. So in a professional manner, leadership goes beyond managing a team. It's fostering a culture where everyone is given an opportunity to lead and inspire. So using everyone's strengths. I would relate leadership like tending to a community garden, planting seeds of encouragement where everyone is able to grow. It's a collaborative effort where each person contributes to the flourishing of everybody. In this generation, leadership is about breaking down barriers and encouraging diverse voices, a culture where stepping up is an empowering tool. And it's not just leading a group, but empowering all to become leaders themselves.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And Rebecca, your perspective.
Yeah, thanks. So the problem with young people like Kylie is that they're really smart and they steal your answers. You know, that you've kind of given, you think you're coming up with something really amazing, and then she just whips it out like that. But so I'm not going to repeat, because I'm just going to completely agree with everything Kylie just said. I think that it's not a position and not a title that is so important. I think everyone leads through behaviors and ways of working, and the outcome of that is that it makes unwanted either behaviors or cultures, makes them hard. It makes them hard to survive because there's more people. So you're shifting that critical mass towards positivity. So they can't hang around, or they're short-lived. So, you know, someone is behaving in a way that's not really acceptable. That's not going to last long, because basically peer pressure, right? And they're less impactful as a result. So you're not having someone in that sustained position where they just feel like either disempowered or can't really sort of see a way forward. So yeah, I'm not going to be able to say any better than Kylie, but I think hopefully a bit of food for thought there from both of us.
And Kylie, I hope you get to read the chat later on, because lots of people have fangirled you on that one too. So great work. Just building on what you've said, Rebecca, how do we all benefit if we have more people demonstrating leadership? You've said that it kind of takes the oxygen out of bad behaviour, but I'm interested in you exploring that a bit further.
Yeah, I think when I talk about that critical mass, I guess if you can create, you know, people who are behaving in a way you don't want them to as become the minority, and all of a sudden, you know, that, like I said, peer pressure just makes it completely, almost overnight. You've got to turn that behaviours off. And the other thing is, we know that only women and girls can talk about their experiences as women and girls. You can't go kind of picking that off the tree around the place and not talking to the people whom it affects the most. So that's how you know you can create that safer and fair and I guess inclusive environment for people in the future.
And Kylie, how do you think we will benefit when we have more people demonstrating leadership?
Yeah, I would say more leaders is such a big deal. So just imagine a group of leaders stepping up, not just for themselves, but just gearing up a whole generation for whatever may come. So I would say adaptability is key. So we're just picturing a team of leaders with different strengths working together like real world solvers. I mean, more leaders means more ideas, just a recipe for progress and change. I would say connections matter. So a team of leaders offer support and working together to create a space of unity. We really want to create a space where leaders fit with the vibe. With more leaders, they will act as a united force, making things simpler and enhancing the journey.
Nice. And thinking about enhancing that journey, tell us a story of your own awakening to your role as a leader. And we'll start with you, Kylie.
Actually, my leadership journey was quite tough. So when I first got my leadership position, people didn't want me to be in that position. It was because of my age. It was because of my experience. This was my first ever time as a leader. But my colleagues were my lifesavers. They became crucial. They were highlighting the strength of working together as a team. So leadership to me isn't a solo mission. It's a group effort where everyone's strengths play in overcoming challenges. This really tapped into the importance of diverse strengths. I didn't need to be the best at everything. I needed a team where everyone excelled. One memorable moment became that was for us a daunting beginning. It transformed me into a mountain of manageable steps that I could be able to take for both my personal and collective growth. So my journey to leadership wasn't a solo journey. It's a shared understanding that guides my approach. It's a reminder that leadership is all about a supportive team where everyone's strengths combine to overcome challenging and success.
Nice. And Rebecca?
Yeah, Kylie, you just must have been too awesome. So don't worry about that. And I'm glad you had some support along the way. But I think you touched on a really important point there is often the first bit of leadership you actually made to feel almost inconvenient and you're a little bit uncomfortable. So I think that's almost, not important to feel, but important to understand what that's like. But I guess from my perspective, and having just come off the New Zealand Cricket Board, and I see one of the board members, Sarah Beeman's on the call, and she's just made a really great point in the chat around that matrix approach to governance, and even leadership teams, I think, can use that. And I would have to say the gender diversity targets across New Zealand, in cricket's, the example I have opened up doors and created opportunities way broader than just having 4 of us at the table. It has been, I think, almost accidental, probably inconvenient for sure, but absolutely, I've seen a couple of processes where one of us has spoken up and said, I think we need a woman involved there. My involvement in touching on Helene's work around the high performance in cricket and really pushing to go, you can't lift and shift what you do with the guys onto the girls. It's not going to work that way. And you're dealing with a professional age where guys became professional in the 90s, women, it's just happening now. So you really need to be cognizant of those important changes. So, and then off the back of that, New Zealand Cricket's just announced the first woman chair in the world. And if anyone knows anything about cricket and how it's run in the world, that is huge. That is enormous. And Diana Puketapu will continue to pave the way. So keep an eye on her. And then if you've ever got a chance to hear from her, I think it'll be really valuable.
Thank you. And I think it's really interesting to note that Martin Snedden, the outgoing chair, has resigned and created space. So a fantastic champion for change and someone who has made that possible. Thank you, 2 great panelists once again on that particular topic. And thank you particularly to Rebecca. We will now hear from Helene again. And the focus of this next area is going to be, I've missed a point here. What I'd like you to do is think about your own transformational moment in your leadership journey and share some of those in the chat function. One of the things that Kylie has already talked to is that we can't achieve change alone, and your videos clearly told this story. The call to action identified many areas that reflect this: leadership, youth voice, male allies, discrimination and inclusion. And the latter talks about collectively mobilising a movement in sport. Helene and Kylie, you've both been involved in supporting and encouraging others. Based on this, perhaps we'll hear from you first, Helene. What can we do to support and encourage others into leadership and as they are demonstrating leadership?
Yeah, I think there's so much power in a coffee conversation, and I say this all the time, and being a connector, and I think that's the beauty of the women in sport movement, is that we can do that quite naturally. I think tapping people on the shoulder when you meet them, letting them know that you see something of value in them is really powerful, and just having a loop of communication around the opportunities out there to learn. And if you don't get that opportunity in that moment in time, it's going to make you better tomorrow than what you were today. So in terms of high performance, I think one thing we've done really well is that people put their names forward for high performance. Now they get connected into the high performance network, so they know the people, can see the people, they understand what it looks like to be a coach, to be a leader in HP, and I think that's incredibly powerful.
Thanks. And Kylie, how do we support and encourage others?
I would say when it comes to supporting and encouraging others into leadership, it's like cultivating a garden. So our goal is to create an environment where everyone has a chance to bloom. So a key aspect is recognizing strengths. Think of it as identifying different flowers in the garden. Similar to a workplace, it's about pinpointing individuals with strong skill sets. Once we spot these strengths, it's not about admiring them, it's about getting hands-on. It's like giving them the right skills to thrive. In the workplace, this means helping individuals develop those talents. Oh my gosh.
Nice.
So this is also by saying, hey, you're good at this. It's not just saying, hey, you're good at this. It's about providing opportunities for them to shine and lead where they excel. So the approach goes beyond just delegation. It's about handing over the reins, giving them a chance and saying, hey, you've got this, run with this. It isn't just for personal growth. It's about a smoother transition where they eventually take on more responsibilities. They're ensuring they're well prepared to lead. So as I keep talking about gardens, so imagine this workplace garden we're cultivating. It's not just about growth, it's continuous learning. It's providing the right support for the leadership to flourish. This isn't a one-time thing, it's an ongoing journey. The secret, it's rewarding, not just for individuals growing into leadership, but for the whole team. And why? Because everyone has a chance to shine. It's elevating the entire workplace. It's like having a garden where every flower is in full bloom, so they're vibrant, dynamic, and beautiful. I mean, it means fostering an environment where leadership isn't scary, but a journey that's both manageable and fulfilling.
Thanks. And I love the idea that when you think about a garden, there are plants at different types of development and growth. Perhaps you could talk very briefly about how to build emergent leadership or tuakana taina models into our system, Kylie.
Yeah, I would say the tuakana taina model is like a deep conversation. So the experienced leaders, the tuakana, share their wisdom, passing on a treasure map for leadership. So now the flip side, the emergent leaders, the taina, aren't just passive listeners. They bring in fresh ideas, shaping the present and the future. So, but it's not just about sharing knowledge, it's about building connections. We want the youth voice, the taina, not just to be heard, but actually be valued. So it's an ongoing process that empowers the youth to bring their unique perspective to the table. So this connection isn't just about feelings, it's practical. So it ensures our leadership adapts to the fast-changing society we live in. So the tuakana taina model isn't about building leaders, it's about creating a space where everyone contributes, learns, and grows together. So it's a chat that just never stops, a dance between experience and new ideas that keep our leadership connected to the real needs of today and tomorrow.
You've got such wonderful imagery there. It's kind of like all these metaphors. It's fantastic. And you always get me on the concept of dance. Helene, tell us a little bit about how we might build emergent leadership into the system. And if you can give some examples of how you're doing that, that would be great.
Yeah, I think it's really important, particularly in the high performance space, for us to think about emergent leadership for succession planning. So once we as a woman are in the high performance coaching space or leadership space, who can we succession plan to replace us? That's the way I think about it. And we use the tuakana taina model within our targeted coach development program, Te Hapatanga. We bring the women together in a mentoring space that have had that HP leadership experience, but also as an experienced mentor and leader, you're actually learning about the new information and the new ideas that the emergent coaches are bringing. And I think in the women in sports space for HP, especially by having our residency experience where we can give people part-time roles or full-time roles, you can actually apply this model to the flexibility and life stages that different women go through within their career. And so it's not about having to be there 24/7 full-time in a coaching space. You might bring your strength as emergent coach or leader to the table, and that may add value to the experienced leader that or coach that's there. So I think it's a really cool way to work.
Thank you so much. And some great examples of where emergent leadership and tuakana Taina are working in different parts of the recreation and sport system. Once again, over to you, audience members, a chance for you to comment on and share how one thing that you've done to support leadership development in others. So your turn. And while you're doing that, thanks, Kylie and Helene. You can relax now, and we will hear back from Nikki about where WISPA is going for the year ahead.
Kia ora. Thank you, Robin. Firstly, can I just say what an incredible piece of insights that have come through those three views, very different views in different parts of our sector, but a lot of commonality and themes that wove through really nicely. I've got pictures of gardens and kitchens and tools and all sorts in my head about how we could depict the learnings we can take from this. Looking ahead for WISPA, I'm sure in many of your own circles, 2024 is looking to be a really exciting transformational year. Plenty of opportunities on the horizon, but also plenty of space to work together and advance positive outcomes as a community. We're delighted to share today, for the first time, we haven't discussed this yet in the public domain, but we are opening applications from tomorrow, Thursday the 16th of November, for Whanaki o Te Kōpara 2024. So if you've been sitting here and you've been listening to Kylie all about her experience and her learnings and what she's taken out of Whanaki and what that's offered to her, and if you're thinking about anyone in particular in your circles that would really benefit from a similar opportunity, then please, as soon as we launch that information tomorrow, share it amongst your members, your circles and your friends. So this edition of Whanaki as well, we will be taking on an impact piece assessment, so looking at multiple years of our alumni and the impact that this is having on our sector in terms of growing leadership potential, not only obviously in that positional lens, but more from a personal lens. So that will occur alongside the program as it runs next year. In addition, we've been talking a lot about the benefit that sector engagement has on our community, particularly recognising a year on from IWG, what that event really did for our sector and what it offered us in terms of collaboration, connection, and brainstorming ways forward, but collaborating in how we do that. So we're working around an opportunity to bring back a nationwide, not global, we'll stick to Aotearoa this time around, a nationwide women and girls event to be determined and actually to be co-designed alongside us by our community, what that looks like. So we're excited to share that that's coming back online in 2024. We'll continue to expand our network, Hini Manawarau, and the offering that we're putting into that, so that it is a reciprocal opportunity for people to come in as an organisation or an individual and really to support the collective goals in terms of advocacy and delivery of mahi and advancing systems change as one. So that is going to continue to evolve through 2024. And we also look to start to do a lot more regular advocacy and content, so thought leadership, information that we can share collectively and afar. So bringing as I said earlier, the best of the world to us, but also sharing our best with the world. So that's going to become quite a feature for WISPA going into 2024. We've got lots of opportunity for sector collaboration, lots of ideas in the pipeline, and really keen to hear from you as well about anything you're working on where you feel there's an opportunity to work alongside and with and through WISPA. We'd love to be a part of a collective ambitions that we all have. And there's bound to be more. This is just the start, but we also know we are a small team, and so we've got to be really strategic about where we put our time and energy into. But this is just the headlines of where we are. We're really excited for you to jump on that journey anywhere you see that fits your work and your programs and your circles. Please do obviously connect into us through various means, whether it's our people directly, myself and Marin and my team, and we have Sarah, one other, our board members, through our foundation network, through our Hini Manawarau websites, social media, Insight Hub. There's so many ways to connect in and be part of our work in a wider sense. But yeah, really excited for 2024. This has been a really incredible way to celebrate 1 year on and bring some of the community back together and talk about the change we've had, because it's been such a year of change, and that's really the word that describes from November 2022 to November 2023, I think, for many people in how we operate. Without further ado, again, back to Robin, but thank you everyone for joining today, and I look forward to staying connected and staying in touch with you all in the near future, and obviously have a lovely festive break if we don't do this again until the new year. Ka kite.
Thank you so much, Nikki, and super excited about the opportunities ahead. I'm not sure at your end, but you will have had another poll that indicates, gives you an opportunity to respond to the proposal from WISPA around another Women and Girls type of summit event. So really keen to have your feedback on that. We've also had some Q&A, and normally I would get the person to answer it online, but Helene's having technical issues. So I'm just going to pass to you, Helene, a question, and if you can pop back online, that would be fantastic. So it says here, Katrina thinks is loving the mahi you're doing in the HP coaching space for women. Do you have any advice you can offer on how we can leverage what you are doing down to the grassroots and regional levels for improving and increasing women in coaching? And to use Kylie's metaphor, the garden grows from the ground up. So actually you need good soil too, don't you? So your wise women thoughts on that, please.
Yeah, if I put my coaching hat on, and I think when I was in the environment of being a high performance coach, you want to connect with everybody and give everybody the opportunity to connect into what you do and how you do it and what that looks like through the pathway. So my challenge to myself I put up there is, how do I bring the people to me and share what I do in my own environment so that they can take something of value back to their environment. And now when I'm in my role here, while we set up mentors, that tuakana taina model for the HP coaches, we're always saying, what's the give back for the coaches that come to us, and what are they giving back into their pathways? So it's kind of that attitude of gratitude philosophy, the learnings that you get from others, how do you share them and pass them on? And the last point I would say is, where in the pathway are women not coaching as much? Be curious about that area. Are there lots of women coaches in development? Are there lots of women coaches in community? Lots of women coaches in high performance? Find out, talk to your people, connect with them. Where are the sticking points or challenges, and how do you make a connection at that point?
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I've come away from today with a real interest in gardening, kitchens, dancing, and coffee. All of those things seem to be relevant, and I'm loving that whole aspect of the attitude of gratitude. I'm a firm believer that every interaction is a potential intervention, and if we're curious and we share our observations with others, we share it with generosity, then and that involves sharing space, then we are bound to have a positive impact. So some key things to wrap up. We need to be continuing to use evidence, and I think, Helene, you've just talked to that. What are we noticing, and how do we keep track of some of those things? Policy is an important lever, and we've had some really great examples of that at a national level. Creating those opportunities at a local level is really critical as well. Having key people in key roles, and I think you can see that Rebecca, Helene and Kylie are some key people who have been creating change, but there are many others, and I haven't had an opportunity to read through the chat, but I know that all of you are taking really proactive and positive action in the spaces that you're working in. And I'm going to look forward to going through and reading the chat and getting a sense of who's been doing what. we need to continue to use our networks to build champions and to both start the fires and to be the fire starters and support those fire starters. We need to acknowledge the creative difference and the benefit that that brings in terms of impact in our communities. And we need to acknowledge the power, potential and support of others. So lots of fantastic things that for us going forward. I'm going away with a whole lot of things that I'm interested in exploring further, but we want to hear from you. So last kind of chat for now. What is it that you are going to do as a result of today's kōrero? What's your own commitment to change and action? What's one action that you are taking? So I'm keen to hear from you on that. So thank you all. It's 10 o'clock. Lots going on, an action-packed session. We will send out to you a bit of a feedback form just to hear how you found this session, but I'm going to close with a karakia. Te taua mai ronga, te taua mai raro, te taua mai I roto, te taua mai wahu, kia tau ai te Māori tū, kia tau ai te Māori ora, tū tura whakamaua, kia tina, haumie, hui e, tā iki e. Kia ora koutou, have a wonderful day, everybody.